Welcome back to the I Am Passionate podcast. It's your host, Jaren, and I hope you all are doing well. So, I'm going to kind of have a new tradition with every episode from here on out. I'm going to try to say maybe one or two, like positive things, kind of just about myself because, like, I feel like, as people, we're naturally always hard on ourselves. And I feel like even more so, like, I feel like I've been, kind of hard on myself. I've been bummed out more. I feel like I should say some positives about myself and, kind of keep that positivity around me as much as I can because I truly believe what you put out in the world, it'll come back to you. So I'll kind of have two positives. The first out of the two, um, over the last couple of months since I started working out, I started at about like just over 200 pounds and I'm currently 186. But I do know like pretty much on January 1st of this year, I was 205 pounds. As of right now, the time of this recording, I am 186. So essentially, I've lost almost 20 pounds like consistently, which I also just ate dinner not that long ago. And like, I have to, do what I need to do to like kind of see where I'm at. But hey, still, I've done really well, with, like my diet and everything. I will admit this week has not been the best for me, but still, for the most part, I feel like I've been eating a lot better. Um, I've been, just trying to, take care of myself. And like also like a problem with me with eat, I would always overeat. My family would tell you better than anybody. I would overeat. And I would definitely say that I don't overeat now. Second, which this isn't about me exactly. Actually, no, it is. I would definitely say that my music taste, it is a lot different than what people would probably expect of me. So earlier today, when I was at the gym, I'll be honest, I was listening to Olivia Rodrigo's new album at the gym, which most people are like, "Dang, Jaren, are you okay? You were listening to that at the gym?" Hey, I was turning up. I got a good workout in. Like I did lab pull down today. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like my traps, like near my neck, like oh my god, like lab pull downs killed me today. But no, I love the album. I think it's really, really good. And once I listen to it one, maybe two more times, I'll probably, try to review it on the podcast. And so, like, like even before like changing my music taste, like I definitely knew a few of Olivia Rodrigo's songs, despite what I would have told people. But I can definitely say that I never truly took the time to listen to, her songs like one by one until today. And I'll definitely say that she has a fan. So now I'm going to talk about baseball because baseball is going to be the main theme of this episode. It has been a while since I talked about some baseball. Mostly that is because, like my job with like being really, really busy and, with like how like baseball is scheduled. Sometimes it's earlier in the day where, I'm just trying to relax or maybe I can't even watch the whole thing. Or sometimes maybe like the Cubs tonight, they play at 9 p.m. If I was busy with my job tonight, like sometimes like I kind of have that like, yeah, cool, I can watch it, but like how much work will I get done? So like that's kind of why like at least during like the month of like late April, so like late April and then May, I did not watch as much baseball. Like when the season started, like the first about 2 to 3 weeks, I watched a lot. I watched a lot. And I'm going to try to get back to watching even more, as best as I can. And I know the White Sox and Dodgers, they pretty much, just started like a few minutes ago. I'm not going to give predictions, until later in terms like I don't think I'm going to give like a winner or loser, just kind of what I think overall is going to happen from what I know about, like the White Sox. Um but what I learned so far, this is a mix of how from what I've observed as a fan versus like what I've done for work. But this first thing, yes, this applies to every sport, but it's not over till it's over. Like I established in the first episode, like I've watched more Cubs games than I have Sox games, and that wasn't fully intentional. But I feel like with the Cubs this year, they started out really, really hot, and then they're dealing with some injuries, and they just have been kind of, we'll just say meh, for lack of better words. And I feel like a lot lately when I've been watching their games, essentially they'll like be winning, let's just say like 2-0, like let's just say going into the seventh inning, right? And then like I might get bored, so like I might do something else, and I'll just change the game, or like maybe play video games, and then I find out later in the night when I check the Cubs lost, and I was like, bro, what? There was a game I think they were playing the Oakland A's. They were down like 6-1, and then they ended up winning 7-6. Yeah, I'm not saying any other order. Y'all know the meme already. And if you genuinely don't, aka my parents, don't worry about it because genuinely means nothing. But yeah, no, like I feel like the Cubs, like sometimes they're trailing big and then they'll just find a way to win, or sometimes they're kind of just in like a defensive game, and then like basically I've learned a lot from Kevin about like like pitching and everything. By that I mean like the different kinds of pitchers, and like I know that the Cubs have had a lot of injuries at pitcher, but like man, like it's just crazy. Like, and like I'm a very casual fan, so like I'm sure for people who watch the Cubs, every game, I'm sure they're like, oh my God, this dude's in. Like when I went to the Sox game with Kevin back in April, when Jordan Leisure came into that game, he literally showed me Twitter just being so upset that he was in the game, and I understand. I understand. But yesterday, the Cubs, they did avoid a sweep against the Rockies. And I had overheard the announcer talk about that it's been since 2012 since the Rockies have swept the Cubs. And I feel like, with also like me as a baseball fan, like me paying attention to even be able to say that stat to you, I think is cool. Because like I feel like if you would have told me like let's just say 3 years ago that like I'm gonna be out here saying baseball stats to you, even though that they're basic stats. Yeah, I can't do nothing about the fireworks. Um, yeah, nah, it is June 12th. It is 6:49 p.m. I don't know why I'm hearing fireworks, but hey, it is what it is. Let's get back to the topic at hand. But for the Rockies, they're at the bottom of like the NL West, and the Cubs, they're in a very competitive like NL Central. Like I think like almost if you look at the standings, like every team. I think the Brewers they've won like 41 games, and the Cubs they won 35. Like all the teams are floating around at like 41 to like I think the team at the bottom of the Cubs division it has like 32 wins. Um, so like yeah, no, I understand that like from like two people which I'm not gonna like say the people's names, but they know who they are. They basically they told me that the Rockies haven't been good in a while. Um, which like I like obviously I'm gonna take their word for it because like they have no reason to lie to me. For I'll use the word lie very loosely there. Um, so but yeah, just overall with the Cubs, with the hot start that they've had, and I understand injuries have definitely affected them, but I think my casual optimism has surprised me because, like, I don't know. I guess I just more so was maybe I'm just comparing the Cubs too much to their team last season with the games I watched last year, because like I mean I don't know. Like I just feel like from a very like casual fan, like last year's Cubs team was pretty good. Like don't get me wrong, and they definitely had their weaknesses like every team does, but I don't know. I just kind of would have expected like the team like the Cubs to just take care of business against the teams that they should take care of business against, and they lost the series against the Rockies, which it's crazy, but I mean, baseball is a long season, so like I imagine that stuff happens. Like it's gonna happen. Like in basketball, you're gonna lose a game that you should win. Which speaking of basketball, man, Victor Wembanyama, man, oh my god, like I like the confidence, but basically like earlier today, which Kevin has sent me this, which I'm sorry to go 180 like that, but basically he's saying Victor Wembanyama said, "Hey, everyone knows we're gonna come back down 3-1." Which nah, I don't think like is gonna happen. Now like which I said to Kevin and I said to my brother, I'm only gonna be mad about Victor Wembanyama's comments if the Knicks win game 5. Like if the Spurs, force a game 7 and if they somehow lose in game 7, I'm not gonna be that mad because at least the Spurs would have went down swinging. But right now they're just like they're just playing like bad. But enough about basketball because that's not the focus of this episode. But I'm happy I got some basketball in this episode. But if I also had to say who my favorite Cubs player is, um, I would honestly just say Seiya Suzuki only because like his number and like I don't know. I feel like most people would probably say PCA for the Sox. Um, I like Murakami. I don't really have any particular reasons for it. Um, like I feel like for most people, when they have a favorite player, like their favorite player, like they have a reason for it. Like some might be simple, like thinking of football. My favorite player of all time is Ray Lewis, just because like seeing like all the pregame speeches and everything, like how he inspired the Baltimore Ravens to like just go out there and take care of business. And more often than not, it worked. It worked. My favorite player on the Ravens today is Lamar Jackson. Just because like when like he was getting drafted, a lot of people wanted Lamar Jackson to change his position, and he's like, nah, I'm a quarterback. Several years later, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. So enough about that. But another thing that I'd say I've learned about baseball is that the sport is very, very technical. So like let's just say when a team switches pitchers, right? You're gonna see the stats on like the pitchers being brought in. I could not tell you if a pitcher is good based off of like the stats that you see. I cannot tell you. And same for like maybe people who are at bat. I cannot tell you. But now if they were to say that like this person has hit 50 home runs this season in 35 games, like that seems like amazing in my opinion. That seems amazing. Um, so like something like that I'll get, but when you like look at like how they would typically show the stats, like that I don't quite understand just yet. I think if I was to watch more, I'd understand. Like I have to listen a little bit more closely to how people break down stats in baseball. Um, but yeah, I think that like for me, even with like my job, I don't really use a lot of like terms. Like you're not gonna hear me too often. Like with how my job works, like when I'm like, let's just say I write a script, I'm not going to use the phrase RBI all that often. Not because like that's not a part of the game. It's just because like I don't know how to use it correctly. But luckily for me, other people will check, like my work before like finalizing it, and so then like they might add in, some of the more like advanced like terminology that I don't quite know how to use. So it's not me being afraid. It's just I don't quite understand how to use it yet. But like in compared to football and basketball, my favorite two sports, I could explain to you all the terminology behind it. Like for the most part, like I think there's a few things in basketball I can't really explain to you, but for the most part, I could pretty much explain to you like all the terms, breaking down stats. I could explain all that to you. But I'll get there someday when it comes to the terminology. It just takes time. It just takes time. And then the other thing to talk about, going to a game is definitely better than watching it on TV. But here's the thing. In the past, I hated watching games on TV. I hated it. But because I always think it was so boring. But now I'm kind of enjoying it a little bit more. I don't really know. Like I feel like it was more so like baseball is like at least just for me watching it. Like most of the time I'm watching a game alone. It's just very chill. So like I think that's probably part of the reason as to why I find more enjoyment watching baseball like on TV than I did in the past. Like I just a very chill environment. And like the one time I went to a game, it was super fun, even though the White Sox did not win that game. I do want to try to go to another game over the season's over. It's a long season, so like I feel like I can really make that happen. But yeah, it's gonna be a little tough. I just flinched because of that firework. But we're going to talk a little bit more about the White Sox and the Cubs before kind of being done with this episode. But let me know what your thoughts are down below about like the MLB season so far. Let me know your favorite team down in the comments. Let me know your favorite player. Let me know if what I'm even saying even sounds like, hey, like you're learning a little bit more. Like I can see the difference in how you're speaking from the first few episodes, because I did do an episode about the World Baseball Classic, about the first few episodes compared to now. But for the White Sox, I have not watched as many games, not because I don't want to. It's more of an access thing. So um, it's more so like from time conflicts and like also like I genuinely did not have access. But I literally before recording this podcast just thought of an idea on how I can watch the game and like it not be like let's just say overwhelming, if that makes sense. Um, I'm keeping that aspect vague, but for those who listen and you want me to explain, I'll give you the full explanation. But essentially, I haven't watched as much baseball as I did the first few weeks of the season. So like I want to kind of stay in my lane, and then when I become a bigger fan, I could explore new avenues. But right now, I just thought of another like way to kind of stay in my lane. But the other thing to mention is I did go to a bar when the Sox, played the Phillies on June 7th. They ended up losing that game, but even so, I really did enjoy watching the Sox in that game in a losing effort than I did seeing like the Cubs pretty much recently. Like yesterday's Cubs game, I'd say was probably like one of the more interesting Cubs games I've seen in a while, and I get it. I've definitely missed a lot. I've given up on Cubs games, and so like me giving up on a Cubs game, like that goes back to it ain't over until it's over. But like I feel like when the Sox lose, like I feel like they don't lose as bad as the Cubs tend to do. I don't know. That could just be a media attention thing because like I understand, past few seasons the Sox had not been as well, like as good as the Cubs, or just the Sox have been bad. Yeah, the Sox have been bad, and the Sox are doing really good this season. And the Cubs, I feel like they've been competitive a lot the last few years. And then this year they're just in the middle of a slump right now, for just lack of better words. But I think I need to pay more attention to baseball media to truly understand if it's like, oh, yeah, that's true. Like the Sox potentially might not lose as bad as the Cubs tend to do, or if it's just like the media with their own agenda. So like that, I would definitely come to an understanding very, very soon. And so now, kind of just giving some predictions, as I talked about a little bit earlier, the Sox and Dodgers game has started, and I have not looked at anything just yet. My guess is, probably in the second inning, give or take. I don't know, but I'll be tuning into this game after this episode only because, like, I haven't watched much of the Sox, and I literally only watched the Dodgers in Game 7 of the World Series last year when I was watching with my ex. Um, so yeah, no, like for people who are like big Sox fans, let me know in the comments if you think the Sox are gonna play well. Like, I did take a look at the standings, for both teams, and kind of see like where they are. And I think I remember only seeing three teams with 40 plus wins across all of baseball: the Brewers, the Braves, the Dodgers. I feel like there's one more. You know what? I have Google open on my computer. But I'll Google that on my phone and then kind of like maybe in the YouTube description, I'll like correct my thought here. But let me know your thoughts down below. But there's one thing I do know, despite not having watched as many Sox games as I have watched Cub games. I do know that the Sox tend to play really well at home. And I think I saw something that like the Sox have won their last 7 games at home, which I mean, kind of just using my knowledge at sports. If you're that good at home, like I feel like no matter who you're playing against, like that might be in your favor. Now for baseball, I don't know. There might be some teams that is like, hey, they're just good no matter where they play. If the Dodgers are that kind of team, I totally get it. But I think like tonight's game, even just the series, might be more interesting than what people might expect. That's going to be my overall prediction. And then for the Cubs, I feel like the Cubs, they need to win this series. Like I mentioned earlier, they're in like a closer division, with like teams record and everything. And the Giants, they're near the bottom of, the NL West. They're literally one spot above the Rockies. And I think this, like the Cubs in the very short term future, the key words, short term, they kind of have a favorable schedule. By that, I more so mean like, I think it would build a lot of momentum because they beat the Rockies yesterday. Um, if they were to sweep the Giants and then they play the Rockies again, that could go on a little win streak. Because like I was saying with Kevin yesterday, because like I kind of was asking like some of his thoughts, and so he was basically saying that it doesn't seem like the Cubs have been having fun. And like, you know what? I kind of agree with that statement. And like, I feel like teams that don't have fun, they're not gonna like win a lot. And with a sport like baseball, like I feel like for teams who aren't having fun, it's incredibly noticeable. And I feel like last year, like when watching games, I feel like I like even as somebody who knew nothing about baseball at the time, I could easily tell that the Cubs were having fun. But this year, like yeah, no, the overall vibe of the team just seems different. But I would imagine that's partially because of the injuries. But yeah, no, I think this is a really good. This might be, maybe I'm just like over exaggerating this from my casual perspective, but I think if I'm the Cubs, I think sweeping the Giants and then getting those wins against the Rockies, those might be some, they might give the Cubs some confidence just to like Like, hey, like we're playing some good baseball right now. Let's keep it going especially when, the Cubs have to play against some of the better teams. But that is it for today's episode of the I Am Passionate podcast. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next episode.